Hi there, today we are sitting inside the driver's seat of an Audi A3. This is the Audi A3 sedan, so this is obviously the version with the boot. Now, we're just going to do a quick run through of the driver's seat. This is the Audi A3 S-Tronic. This is the 1.4 FSI, now, or TSFI. Now, what's happening here, we've got our S-Tronic gear stick. This is obviously our automatic version. We have park, which is obviously where it's sitting at the moment. As we then apply the brake, we can then go into reverse, neutral, and then we go into drive. Now, you'll see next to the drive, we've got D and S, and that ultimately is standard drive. S stands for sport. Now, what happens here is we can click the gear stick over to the left, and then that gives us a Shiftronic and or touch shift. So what happens here is it basically turns the automatic gearbox into manual. Now you'll see if we have a look on the dashboard, you'll see over there where I'm pointing, it's got an M. Now if we go back to the gear stick, click it back over, we'll see that that then moves on to D, and that's basically a drive. The 1 is the gear that it's in. If I click it over, you'll see the change there onto M. Okay, now that M just means we're using a manual idea of a gearbox, so we still have no clutch obviously, but you touch it forward and it changes up, and touch it back and it changes down again. Now we put it back into manual. Now you'll see that sitting just below where it says DNS, there's an arrow down, and that then puts it into sport. So you'll see we're still sitting in D, so we're sitting in standard gearbox here, and obviously that's in drive. Now I'm going to clip that down, and you'll see it then turns into an S, which uprates the engine's performance a little bit, and obviously thus fuel consumption, but it gives you a vast improvement on acceleration. Obviously fuel consumption then goes out the window. Okay, so that is just a little tip down and then up again. Now you'll see here there's a button that is labeled drive select, and that enables you to choose what the car's computer system is going to do. So once again, we have a look there where our digital speedo readout is. If I click that, you'll see now we're on auto, which means it basically decides what is the best position. So from there I'll press the button again. We've got a choice of dynamic, which gives us sport obviously, we've got individual, and we've got efficiency mode, which then obviously tunes down the engine a little bit, gives you better economy. From efficiency we go into comfort, okay, and then obviously back to auto. Now as we go along, I'll go through a couple of those different options. Obviously as we sit at the moment, we are just sitting as per standard. Now you'll see I'm sitting idling here at the moment. We've got handbrake on. I'm going to pop that into park. You'll see there the gear changes to P. Now once I've done that, you'll see that the rev counter moves down. It says ready. Now that means that the car has turned off, and it's just waiting to go. Now my foot is on the brake. If I lift my foot off the brake as if we're ready to go, then the car starts. Okay, and that just means that the car is now prepared to go again. Put my foot on the brake again, and after a couple of seconds it'll then turn off, going into that eco mode. Now you'll see as we parked here, the readout down there that's sitting at 0.7 at the moment is liters per hour. That obviously is because we're sitting here running, that's how much fuel we're using. As soon as we get to move, that readout then changes from liters per hour into liters per 100 Ks. Now on our steering wheel control, nice and comfortably set up, really easy to get to. We've got our menu options on this side with a little click that then says OK, obviously going into our menu button there. On the right hand side we've got the volume for the sound system, we've got voice activation, and obviously then turning the navigation system on and off. Now as we go through, I'll move our navigation wheel up, that then goes through my trip, average speed as well, 113.1 kilometers, average speed between being set and now 37 kilometers an hour. We've got average fuel consumption sitting at 6.7, which is actually very good, considering I've been doing quite a lot of town driving, very little on the highway, sitting in some traffic. It's very warm outside today in Maritzburg. You can see there the temperature reads out 31.5, so I've had the air conditioning going on the whole time. So 6.7 is actually a phenomenal fuel consumption there. Obviously that's the length of time I've been driving today. That then goes through until the distance till empty, so so 450 k's to go, and then we've got date and time thereafter. Now we'll move on a little bit also within the cockpit here. We've got our climate control. I'm going to turn that on so we can have a look. Lights turn on. I'm just going to turn this way down, turn the auto off there, otherwise the fan gets quite loud. Obviously you've got dual zone climate control, so you've got a temperature for the passenger, temperature for the driver, and obviously that's just turning your aircon on and off. These dials, which feel really good, they feel like they're going to last a long time. They're not like the plastic that you'd get out of cars coming out of Japan, China and Korea at the moment. It feels hopefully built to last. This car has only done a little over 10,000 k's, so it is still reasonably new. Dual zone, you can choose where the wind is going to go, rear demist, front demist, and then obviously recirculation. You can adjust this manually should you so wish, and or just click it over onto auto. And then this, as being climate control, obviously it'll decide if it's cold outside, it'll turn the heater on. If it's hot outside, it turns the climate control and or air conditioning on. You've got 12 volt power outlet over here, 2 cup holders which light up quite nicely in the evening. They've got a little halo that lights up around the outside there. Here we have our electronic park brake, which does take a little bit of getting used to. It does turn off automatically if you take off and forget that it's on, so you won't be able to drive along with the handbrake on. You click it up to turn it on, you'll see the red light turns on. Click it down, turns it off. You'll feel the brake pedal gets a little bit heavier and you're ready to go. Now another safety thing here, of course, is that you cannot release this parking brake without your foot being on the foot brake. It just simply won't release. Now here we've got our center armrest. This obviously is not the top of the range model with the leather option. This has got fabric seats. You'll see that it does have this extended thigh protection here, so if you've got long legs it does make life a little bit more comfortable. We've got a center armrest which is also movable. You can slide that forwards or backwards. That comes in. We've got a little storage compartment inside there. Also in here you'll see that there is an auxiliary input, so you can plug in your phone, your iPhone or whatever, and still keep that running. It is unfortunately not an air conditioned glove compartment, which obviously does happen in some of the other German models like BMWs for instance. You'll also see that our glove compartment, I've got all sorts of things inside there. The car's manual is very small. That obviously is then taken up quite a lot by the entertainment system for the vehicle. You have Audi multimedia here. You've got your CD and or DVD going in there. You can also take an SD card that can then hold some information. Okay, so one interesting thing that you'll note here, which is quite a common thing in more recent vehicles, you've got on the driver's side, you've got lock and unlock. Obviously what happens there, unlock the doors, red light turns off, lock the doors, red light turns on. That locks automatically as you drive away, but there is actually no physical lock. You cannot lock or unlock any of the other doors with a physical latch that you can see going up and down. We've got a little light here that flashes, but that's about as far as it goes. Now as we move on down here, you'll see with our headlights we've got an auto setting. We also have got our fog lights front and rear. Now there are a lot of people that decide to drive along with their fog lights front and rear on, even if there's no mist or fog or rain or anything. This is a huge irritation to fellow drivers, purely because the front and back fog lights, your back fog lights are much brighter than standard tail lights, and it can be dazzling to other road users. When you use your front fog lights as well, those lights are not actually specifically aimed. They are aimed towards the ground, but they have a huge focal area, which can be very dazzling to oncoming traffic. So really be nice to other road users and leave them off until you actually have something to use them for. Now we move on here. These are quite nice and neat. They click in so they don't get in the way of your knee while you're driving. So if we release that, this is your headlight adjuster. I sit usually with it on about 1 or 2 depending on the road conditions and how loaded the car is. Ultimately you want to try and sit somewhere around there so that you don't dazzle oncoming traffic with your lights aimed too high. Here we have our increase and decrease in illumination brightness of the instrument cluster. I usually leave it reasonably bright. Obviously sitting in the Audi, we have a nice clear red dials, and then we have obviously the numbers just sitting in white. Nice and clear, full color display. Really a very nice place to be. Now what we're going to do is move on to a short walk around the outside. I'm going to show you some of the features of the outside of the car, and we'll get back to a short drive thereafter. Okay, so here we have a quick walk around of the outside of the vehicle. You'll see we've got very nice looking 5-spoke mags, both forwards and backwards. We've got disc brakes all the way around. We've got a nice silver tone. This obviously is a higher vehicle thanks to Euro car. This is the A3 TFSI that I mentioned earlier. Good walk around. We've got the side skirts, keyless entry. We do not have the folding side mirror option. Nice tinted side windows that keep it a little bit cooler inside. You'll see these on the front here. I'm going to point to this one on this side. There obviously is one on both sides as we go along. Those are the headlight cleaners. Never in my life ever found real use for them, even on my Land Rover when we've been going through mud. Never really needed them, but obviously an option that has been ticked on this car. Now we're going to walk through just so you can have a look at the boot. Open that. It's got a micro switch inside there, little rubber switch. Nice big boot, lots and lots and lots of space. Unfortunately, a space saver spare tire, which is better than we get in some of the other German models. As we open the door, nice easy sound. It happens nice and easily. No major sticks, which we do find sometimes in VWs. This one nice and easy in and out. We've got brushed aluminium floor scuff guards there. As we close the door, sounds nice. Easy as that. Okay, obviously there we've got indicators. Rear legroom, if I use the test of sitting behind myself, I've got the seat reasonably far back and there is sufficient legroom. It's not fantastic. My head is touching the roof, so not for tall rear passengers. No center armrest at all sitting in the back. We do, however, have rear air conditioning vents for the rear passengers. It says it's a 5-seater. Would not like to sit with 3 people in the back seat, just purely because there is incredibly limited space sitting in the back. Obviously it is a compact vehicle, but very, very small with the test of sitting behind yourself in the car. The view forward is quite nice. It's got stadium seating, which means that the rear seats are sitting at a higher plane to the front seats. We've got our mesh holder here for what have you. Obviously not really child safe or child friendly in the back here in any case, just purely because of the fabric seats. Now that brings me to another point. We've got our center armrest that I was talking about just now. This slides forwards and backwards, nice and comfortable for the driver and passenger to lean on. However, with this model being fabric, that is going to get grubby. So what I find in most vehicles is even if the seats have got fabric, the center armrest is usually covered in something a little bit harder wearing, or at least easier to clean. So that unfortunately is a bit of a drawback from this particular model. Of very few drawbacks, but that is a little bit irritating and oversight in my opinion from Audi. Now you'll see obviously on this A3 versus the older version, having our electronic handbrake means that our center armrest doesn't get in the way when you're trying to engage that handbrake, which they obviously have sorted out from the previous model.